Welcome to Australian Hiker, your online hiking resource. We're your hosts, Tim and Jill Savage.
This is episode 115 of the Australian Hiker podcast. And in this episode, we continue our series of interviews we recorded recently at the Outdoor Retailer Australia show in Melbourne that was held in mid-July 2019.
In this episode, we have 6 interviews that we'll bring to you. And the first is John from Wilderness Wear. And Wilderness Wear produces a range of high quality outdoor clothing, and a lot of it is merino, and the wool is sourced from Tasmania. So it's great to see Australian producers.
So we're here talking to John Pote from Wilderness Wear. We interviewed John last year in relation to the Wilderness Wear clothing range. We've come back to talk to him again this year about new product, and they've had a few changes over the past year about where they're heading and what great new product they've got coming on the line. So thanks for taking the time, John.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity, Tim.
Okay, so what's new and exciting with Wilderness Wear this year?
Well, I suppose the most exciting thing from our perspective is the consumer and the retailer looking at more of the values of the brand rather than just the specific product. In the past, there's been a cringe mentality about Australian made, but now with media focus on plastics in the ocean, pollution, where it's made, what it's made from, is sort of in the front of thinking of the consumer. It's not a discretionary spend anymore. They want to know these things, and that certainly helps us as a brand because we have a true and transparent supply chain from the wool grower to us being self-manufacturers.
I think one of the things that people that are familiar with the brand, they would realise that on the Wilderness Wear packaging and promo material, they talk about 200% Australian, so Australian owned and Australian made. So that is a rare combination. A lot of Australian manufacturers, a lot of Australian owned companies, but they getting the two together is a rare commodity.
Well, that's true, and we're thinking maybe we should up it to 300% because all of the merino does is certified Tasmanian, certified non-mulesed. So we're thinking we might say we're 300% Australian now.
Sounds good. So what change? Actually, before we talk about any new product, what have been the changes that have occurred with Wilderness Wear over the last 12 months? I believe you've got a new sock machine that you've been turning out some new patterns with.
Yeah, not a sock machine as such, but a new sock press.
Yep.
And these are the owner of Wilderness Wear, Philip Endersby. So we're 30 years this year, manufacturing locally, and which isn't easy with the tsunami of imports that come into the country. So it's fantastic that Phil is still reinvesting into the brand with new equipment. So it's a new sock press that was installed 6 months ago now, and it just helps the finish of the socks.
And certainly I've noticed in the last 12 months you've gone from, I suppose, not quite the right term, but a bit more conservative sort of look, the old traditional wool socks, to there've been some quite leery colours and patterns that are coming on the market. So I suppose people either like them or don't. But I must admit, it helps to create a bit of a difference in the market.
Look, I know in the hiking, bushwalking sector, blacks, greens, charcoals, but it certainly has changed with some overseas brands. The patterns and the colours are, it's even in business socks where that's the new tie, where conservative suit, but out there in colours and styles in the socks, and that certainly has transitioned across into the outdoor industry. and it looks important, but it's also the function of the end product that's the main or the key factor of the buyer.
Okay. Now, what new products has Wilderness Wear have released or is about to release? What's the new product on the market this year?
Well, the new product is our ultimate trail sock called Atmosphere, and we looked at putting the best inputs that we have across all of our socks into one sock. So the Atmosphere sock we do in two heights, a mid-height and a quarter height. The primary yarn is called Climmer yarn, and that is a 3:2 ratio blended soft superfine merino with superfine polypropylene. And we've found with that combination of yarns, it offers the wearer a warm when cold plus dry when wet, and that equals hemodynamic. So it just makes for a very comfortable sock for long distance, short distance, trail running, walking, hiking.
And the other thing you were talking to me about yesterday about the sock, the cushioning on the sole of the foot's a bit different than a lot of socks tend to be?
A little different. So we have zonal cushioning now, and we've lowered the profile of the cushioning so it doesn't envelop across the top of the foot. It's the bottom platform of the foot in the high strike zones.
And just looking at it from yesterday, so there's cushioning under the toe area or the front for the forefoot, cushioning under the heel, but under the midfoot where there's really no contact with the shoes in most cases, it's not a thick cushioning pad like with a lot of standard sort of socks.
No, it's a sheer cushioning or zero cushioning, and that helps in the overall weight of the sock, and in the performance of the sock.
All right. So what other new and improved product have you got coming into the market?
Well, across the last 12 to 18 months, we've seen a surge in sales and interest in our Merino Fusion range of base layers, where it's not a blended yarn, but it's knitting the best man-made fibre polypropylene with the best natural fibre merino wool into a range of garments. And we now come across 3 weights in that range. We introduced a mid-weight, a 190 GSM, and then which is high thermal property without the bulk. Then early this year we introduced the 160 weight, a hexagonal knit with a lighter weight with super wick, moisture spread and rapid dry. So for those high intensity running, biking pursuits, it just keeps a lightweight garment that it's constantly dry. It's not absorbing moisture. It's the evaporation of the moisture before saturation of the fabric. And at the show we're launching our Merino Fusion Duo. So this is a bi-layer knit where next to skin is 100% polypropylene and the outer layer is 100% superfine merino. So we're keeping the dry climate next to skin and then the thermal properties of merino. So great for cold weather pursuits, whether it be paddling, skiing, snowboarding.
Liam, certainly looking at those yesterday, they look like quite a good garment actually, and it's funny, you sort of look on the inside and they're green,
yes.
And on the outside, at least the one that we looked at yesterday was a bluey colour. Is that going to be the colour range, or are you going to have a few different colours in that?
No, well, it will be this one colour option, and the bluey, it's a charcoal blue, and you get the hint of the polypropylene, the lime polypropylene coming through. So it's easy on the eye, but also catching as to, hey, something special about this garment and fabric.
I must admit, looking at it yesterday, it looked like quite a unique garment. It looks like something that we're looking forward to trying out. So I think it will do well overall.
And the third product that we are launching at Aura is our Cool Merino, which is a blended yarn of 70% merino, 30% tencel, which is a fibre that's based from wood, eucalyptus wood. What that offers the wearer is a garment that is cooling in hot conditions.
So it's more a summertime or an exercise garment?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. And that will be in the male and the female range, will it?
Correct.
Okay. So that's good. That's great. We've been talking to John Pope from Wilderness Wear about some of the great product on offer, and again, 200% Australian made and Australian owned. So we'll have some images up on the show notes, and at regular basis, we've still got some product that we'll be releasing reviews on. And it's products that we do use ourselves. So thanks very much for that, John.
All right, thanks for your time, Tim.
So that was the interview with John from Wilderness Wear. Again, it's a company that we like using and supporting, Australian-owned, Australian manufacturing, and the wool they're using in there is also from Tasmania as well. So it's always good to support the local industry where we can. John mentioned 3 ranges that were particularly good from their point of view, the Merino Fusion, and we've been using a number of their socks in particular. And John talked about the Climmer yarn, and it's quite surprising actually, because it's a wool-based sock with a synthetic fabric that's integrated into it, and it doesn't feel plasticky and artificial like a lot of the socks with nylon materials can do.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's the thing about all of their blended products. They do feel very soft and very comfortable.
And another one in that sort of category as well was the Merino Fusion Duo, and it's quite an interesting looking product to touch and feel. You look at it and think it just looks weird, and you can't work out why. And it's got the polypropylene layer on the inside and the wool layer on the outside, and you get a bit of that greenish colour showing through the charcoaly blue. And it's a good-looking top, and it feels really good.
Yeah. And likewise with the Cool Merino, the softest tops that I've, had an opportunity to touch and feel for a long time.
I must admit, I tend to be a merino wearer, even during the summertime. So it's going to be interesting to see how those pan out in a bit of heat, to see how they work out as well. Our next interview will be with Ben from One Planet. One Planet is another Australian company that's been around for many years, not as well known across Australia as some of the other international brands, but certainly a company that has a presence in the market and produces some very good gear.
Yeah, and we spent some time with Ben talking about the range of sleeping bags that they have, and I think with the trends in sleeping bags now, and they've certainly got a number in their range that do this, that can take you from, relatively warm weather through to cooler weather, without having to invest in separate bags along the way.
So we're here with Ben from One Planet. It's a name that some people may know, but they've been around for 40 years, I believe.
That's correct.
So Ben, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks, Tim.
Now, can you just tell us a bit about One Planet, what you do and who you are?
Well, at One Planet, we're a local manufacturer, so we're based here in Melbourne. We manufacture the vast majority of our gear here, and we're wholly Australian owned, and we do all of our design here. So we're quite specialised in the product range that we offer, and it's always tailored for Australian or New Zealand conditions.
All right. Is there anything in particular that you focus on, or you do the accessories as well as all the sleeping bags and tents and things, or?
Yeah, our main 4 ranges would be rucksacks, sleeping bags, tents, and also apparel, so rainwear and warmwear. We're quite specialised in the canvas rucksack game. That's probably where most people are familiar with us, large capacity canvas rucksacks, bushwalking tents, so lightweight journey-based tents, and also sleeping bags that are fairly lightweight, but also we offer quite a large range. So,
all right. So what's the reasoning for canvas bags as opposed to the nylon materials?
Well, we use both, and I think there's genuine value in both. The canvas we use is called waterlock canvas, so it's a coarse spun polyester with cotton on the outside. It's incredibly durable and water resistant. So from a use in Australian conditions, bush bashing, tough sticks, bumping up against rocks and trees and things like that, it's phenomenal performance. And it will last you a really, really long time. So from a durability perspective, environmental perspective, it's very good.
I must admit, I haven't actually used the One Planet packs, but I've seen a lot of them being used by guides, particularly carrying the big packs where they're carrying radios and first aid gear and food for their clients. So it's sort of that's probably been my main area that I've come across these packs in the past.
Yeah, I'd say that's true. We're definitely specialised in the large capacity rucksack game.
Yep.
Most of our bags use a harness system called the Exact Fit harness. It's the only harness in the country that's accredited by the Chiropractic Association. And it means we offer 4 standard fits for men and for women in every single bag.
Okay.
So it's quite a good point of difference, and a lot of people come to us for the comfort on carrying genuinely decent weights.
Okay. So apart from the fit issue and the fact that they're a hard wearing pack, what's the other reason? What's the other benefits of the One Planet packs?
Well, you're buying a locally made pack, which is always good. Our factory's in Melbourne, and the canvas that we use is also made here in Australia. It's made in Newcastle in New South Wales. So you're buying a bag that's going to last you a really long time. It's ethically made. It's sustainably made. We do all of our repairs and servicing in-house. So you're getting a really high quality pack. Most people would place us in the upper tier of the bushwalking and hiking or outdoors market. And you're getting phenomenal customer service on the back end.
All right. So from the packs, we'll move on to the shelters now. And again, I've been familiar with at least the one I'm looking at just now, which is the Gundi, is it?
The Gundi 2
yep,
or 1?
Gundi 2. I'm guessing that's a 2-person and 1-person is the number?
Yeah, so the Gundi series is our most popular series of journey-based tents. The range consists of 1, 2 and 3-person. We also do a 2-person snow. We run 2 different inners as well, so you can choose the mesh inner or the nylon inner in your configuration. We also run 2 different flies, so you can choose a 7 denier nylon fly or you can choose a 30 denier polyester fly. So the real advantage of the Gundi series is you really mix and match the components that you want for the journey that you're going on. And we also have all the spare parts, or you can buy a secondary fly or inner. So as a complete system, it's very advantageous, and every year we sell more and more.
Okay, so I'm guessing like a lot of the tents on the market, the Gundi 1 is a 1-door tent and the Gundi 2 is a 2-door tent?
That's correct, yep.
Now looking at this Gundi 1 that's in front of me, is that a window or an access point on the other side of the tent?
There's a small half-moon door on the other side, so you can actually make use of the vestibule. So when you're using the Gundi 1, you've got your large vestibule, which can fit a large capacity pack, 85, 90 litres, in the entrance side, but then you do have a small half-moon door on the other side to make use of the space there with your shoes or anything else you might wish to put outside.
Okay, that's quite unique. I haven't seen that on tents before, so...
Yeah, it's a handy little feature. One of the other major features with our Gundi series in comparison to others is the floor. It's generally a bit heavier than most of the competition out there. It's designed for Australian conditions, so we're running a 75 denier floor with a PU coating on there at 7,000 millimetre waterhead. So it's designed to be able to put on the rocks in the Larapinta. You don't need a footprint to put with it, although we do have one if you wanted to.
Yep.
But
All right, no, it's good. It's a good looking little tent. And again, we'll have images of these in the show notes. So if you people listening to this, you want to go to the show notes on their website, you'll be able to see all the photos and images and what we're talking about. Okay, so looking at this one next to us, and this is something that's a bit unique, particularly from an Australian perspective. This is what used to be called a Cuban fibre tent, now called a Dyneema composite fabric tent.
That's correct.
Now, what's so good about Dyneema composite fabric, and why should people be buying these tents?
Well, we've got a tent that we've just brought onto the market earlier this year called the 2-meterable. So it's a single person tent, it's a pyramid style, and we're making it in a 15 denier sill PU, but we're also making it in a Dyneema composite fabric. So the real advantage of Dyneema composite fabrics is the weight.
Yep.
The phenomenal weights. Looking at this one here, the fly, the guys, all together would weigh 290 grams. So if you're willing to use a walking pole converter and your walking poles, along with the DAC, J steaks that we provide, you're looking about 355 grams as the package. You add your inner into that if you wish.
Now, this is actually a reasonably large-looking structure. So what is it classed as? A two-person, three-person, or?
We would call this a one-person tent,
Okay.
mostly because if you're choosing to use the inner, which we sell, a mesh inner with a bathtub footprint, it's a one-person size.
Okay, so this is basically the fly, but as a fly, you've got quite a large space.
Yes,
and that's
yeah.
to allow the air gaps around the tent, the actual inner tent.
That's right,
itself.
yeah, and you can raise this up higher or lower depending on the conditions that you're in. If you're in the northern half of the country, you want to have a bit more airflow going through, fantastic. If you're down in Tassie, you might want to button it down a little bit more and hold it tight to the ground. So there are options in setup.
Now, have you had many people make comment on the, and this tends to be an issue not just with this particular brand or model of tent, but with the Dyneema composite fabric, is very translucent.
It is very translucent, yep. This is one of the things which could be an issue for some people. But I guess once the sun is shining on it from the outside, it does reflect a little bit and it might save you the private moment.
So you just have to be a bit conscious about having a light on the inside at night time.
I certainly would be.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's almost see-through, but not quite. So, but yeah, quite an interesting-looking tent and structure. Now, cost-wise, what are we looking at? Because I believe the Dyneema fabric is actually an expensive fabric.
It is an expensive fabric. Cost-wise, your RRP on this particular tent here is $1,099.
Yeah.
So it's quite up there in price, but when you're looking for a well-made product, that
weighs nothing.
Very, very light. That's really what you're after.
All right. Okay, so, and there's a number of other tents as well, which I won't think we go outside this afternoon because there's a few other tents put up outside. So you've got the same tent as the Cuban fibre tent or the Dyneema tent, which we're looking at in the sil nylon, is it?
That's right. We also make it in a larger version. So the Dyneema version is what we call the 2-mittable. The classic, and I guess where we started our pyramid range, is in the 4-mittable. So that's a 2-person tent, or as a large shelter, you could fit a whole lot of people in there.
Yeah.
And again, that is a very popular tent with guides.
All right. Now, okay, so we've looked at the packs, we've looked at the shelters. What other products does One Planet produce?
We're very big in sleeping bags as well. We actually make our down sleeping bags in Melbourne. So they're locally made, but they're made fresh. We don't have any stock holding of them, so we make them to order, which means you're getting a very fresh bag at the end of the day, which is really nice. We also have quite a large range, nearly 100 different models by size, by loft, by temperature rating. So there's a lot to choose from, but...
So I'm guessing you're making the really lightweight, summer weight version of sleeping bags all the way through to the colder weight sleeping bags?
Yeah, that's right. We make two different quilts, which I would consider to be your very lightweights, and your summer versions of things. We do make some lightweight sleeping bags. One of the most popular for us at the moment is the nitrous sleeping bag. So in a -3, in a regular size, you're looking 567 grams, and that's a limit of comfort. So we name all of our bags off the lower limit of comfort.
Okay. And for that, when we're talking about lower limit of comfort, that's male comfort, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah. Your upper limit of comfort would be your female, lower limit of comfort. The lower limit of comfort, according to the ISO test, is for the male.
And now, with these bags, so what's you have? I'm guessing you have them in a standard and a long version, do you?
Yeah, we run a short or a small, a regular, and also a large.
Okay, so that's for most companies that do standard and long. So this is actually an additional range where you've got a shorter bags for either shorter adults or for kids as well, I'm guessing.
That's right, yeah. Or petite people can be very good because the down is close or the insulation is close to your body. It's faster to warm up, especially if you're on a particularly cold winter adventure.
So what as far as sizing or height's concerned, what sort of height's going to fit a short, a regular, and a large sleeping bag?
Well, we do have a very technical sleeping bag chart that's on our website, which is always really good to refer to. But for example, in our cocoon model, which is a mummy-shaped bag and one of the more popular versions, in a regular, we would say that the user height is around 187 centimeters. So you're looking, you're 6'2" sort of person. In a small, you'd be looking 177 centimeters as the user height, and a large 195, 200. So quite spacious. You generally find with the One Planet sleeping bags, we do make them roomier, so there is enough space to move around and wriggle, and I'd encourage everyone to try one out.
Okay, so we've looked at the packs, we've looked at the shelters and the sleeping bags. That's the main range for One Planet, is it? Or
Those are the three of the four big areas that we're quite strong in. The other one is rainwear and apparel.
Yep.
So we make rainwear specifically designed for Australian conditions, and the classic long cut for bushwalking. That's where we're quite well known. So we use a 20,000 waterproof breathable membrane in our rainwear. It's called Synapse. It's designed to be particularly durable for multiple days of use. I guess that's a key point of difference for us.
all right. Now, looking at the colours, the comment I'd make here, and I don't know whether it's just because this is what you've brought out to the show, a lot of black, a lot of blue, not a lot of bright colours. Is that a choice or just what's been brought out?
It's a little bit of both. It's what we've brought out, but it's also stock service, what we've got on hand all the time, and they're basic colours that can roll over season to season. And so we design, I guess, more on the functionality side of things than the fashion side.
All right. That's good. So we've been talking to Ben from One Planet about the products that One Planet provide, and we'll have images and links in our show notes to the products we've been talking about. So thanks very much for that, Ben.
Thanks a lot, Tim.
So that was Ben from One Planet, an Australian company that's been around for 40 years, and some people are probably quite familiar with it. For many others, it's probably a name they don't hear as often. So keep an eye out for some of the new and exciting products coming onto the market from them. One comment I would make, they've got a lot of good product. The Dyneema composite fabric, or what used to be known as Cuban fibre, that was a really interesting shelter that weighed basically nothing. And this is, we're down to with a lot of the hiking products, if we're trying to save weight, we're down to shaving grams. And unfortunately, that does mean a cost impost on the product. Now, I think people will probably be holding their breath for Dyneema composite fabric products to come down in price. The material really came from the sail making industry, and that's probably the main use for it these days. So it's never going to halve in price. So if you're holding your breath waiting for the prices to drop dramatically, don't. It's a premium product that is going to suit some people, mainly because of the cost. But certainly, if you're into gram saving, this is the material that you want to go through and look at.
Certainly, there are other options available to people. The tent that we've been talking about is, quite an unusual tent. It's more of a shelter as such, so that won't suit everybody. You can use an inner that will turn it into more of a traditional tent, but the shelter in itself is I guess, a particular part of the market.
Our next interview was going to be with Greg Ford from Spelian, and at the start of the interview, Greg talks about Spelian as being the house of brands. So it's a company that's it's the company behind all the brands, if you like. So they stock well-known products like MSR, Petzl, Thermarest, and a number of others that you would probably be aware of, but not know where they come from. Spelian has a few new products on the market across their range coming on board this year, so we'll leave it to Greg to explain what those are. Okay, so we're here with Greg Ford from Spelian. Now, Greg just described Spelian as the house of brands, and they stock a number of different products, including Thermarest, Buff, Petzl, Platypus, and a number of other well-known brands in the market. So it's probably a company you haven't heard of, but you've certainly heard of a number of the product lines that they tend to sell. So thank you very much for your time, Greg.
You're welcome.
Okay, so what's new in in your product range this year or in the coming year?
So coming later this year and certainly into early 2020 is on the Thermarest brand is a new valve that they're introducing into all their mats. The valve that is currently in their mats has been working well for 30 plus years. But with the development in technology and engineering, they've managed to produce a new valve, and this one is called the Winglock valve. And the Winglock valve will be introduced across the majority of their mats. And what that does is that inflates and deflates the mat 3 times faster than the previous mat.
That's always good.
It's always, you're right. It has some, with the namesake, it has some little wings on the edge of the valve, and when you twist those, what that does is that opens up an internal part of the valve to help deflate it much quicker than it had before. On inflation, when you're turning the valve, it's a quarter turn, so it's a nice quick quarter turn. If you're using gloves, it's nice and easy to do, and it's also a one-way valve. There's a membrane on the inside, so it lets the air go in, but won't let it go out. So on deflation, that's the biggest thing that most people say when they're inflating a mat, is that they've got to lock the valve to catch their breath again.
Yeah.
So with this, it's certainly repairable in the field. And by that we see that as eco-friendly as well. Going across these across these mats, it will be introduced later this year into 2020.
Okay, but so pretty much it's a retrofitting of a lot of the existing mats, just to upgrade the valve system.
That's right. You if you've got an existing mat with the older black valve, you can't retrofit this to the new type. The old valves will still remain available to the customers with those mats, those users. But essentially, yes, you're right. Across the whole mat range, this new valve will come through.
Okay. All right, so that's Thermarest. Is there any other product from Thermarest that they're bringing out this year, or they're reasonably stable for this year as far as their range?
They are reasonably stable for this range. There's a few highlights that they are bringing out early into next year. That probably the most common one for backpacking in Australia that we would find is the Trail Pro. The Trail Pro is receiving an update with the new Strata Core foam technology. So it while it offers a nice thick 5 centimetre sleeping surface, on the old Trail Pro, the new one will actually be 7.6 centimetres, and they can do that by the way the foam's cut, but it'll still wrap and roll up just as small as the previous version.
Okay, so basically an improved version, same sort of size, but just as small as the old one.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So from Thermarest, where are we going to head on to next? What's the next
we'll
product?
Move over to MSR and a new filter that we have. This new filter is something that has been available in the US market for a number of years in the US military, called the ThruLink filter. And the ThruLink filter is an inline filter that can retrofit onto any brand of hydration system. And what it does, it comes with some various parts of quick disconnectors and connectors, so you can essentially halve your water hose and put this inline filter in, and it'll then filter your water, so it'll remove any bacteria and reduces various chemical particulates as well. It's a hollow fibre filter with a carbon element to take out any odours and tastes. High flowing, it'll do about 1 litre a minute, and the cartridge will last over 1,000 litres.
All right, it's actually quite good. I must admit, I've used the Sawyer Mini product in the past, and my main criticism with that, particularly when you're trying to pour water into a pot, is the flow rate's pretty poor.
Correct.
So I think something that has a slightly faster flow rate and the quick disconnect options on it will make quite a big difference, I think.
Yeah, what that does is when you do disconnect it from the filter, then it does essentially have on the other part has a shut-off valve, so then water won't pour out everywhere, and you can just quickly disconnect it again.
All right, and that's good. That's going to be a good product, and it feels fairly lightweight.
Yeah, 70 grams. Right. And should retail hopefully around $80 to $90 when it's available.
All right, that's actually quite a reasonable sort of price. Now, with all these products which we're talking about today, we'll have pictures of that on the website. We'll have links through to MSR showing the links of the products where they are as well, if they're still not onto the market yet.
Yep.
Okay, so MSR, for most people that might be aware, they produce a range of tents. Water filters is a big product for them. Things like the MSR Guardian and the Trail Shot, and they also produce a number of other products, tent pegs and many other things that people would be familiar with as well, including stove ranges as well. So it's quite a well-known product range. Okay, so moving on from MSR, we'll go on to
a brand called Yuko.
Okay.
Yuko's a well-known brand. It's certainly been available since the early 70s. Yuko are renowned for candle lanterns. So a small candle lantern in a aluminium housing, and with the candle, it certainly will
was a common outdoor fixture for hiking people, where you would have a candle that would burn for 9 hours. And that's where UCO are now what they're known for. And they're now bringing out a range of LED lanterns and also a utility spork, and best of all, a outdoor ice cream maker.
Just looking at that, I think that's a bit of a luxury for the trail, but
and probably a bit heavy, but it's something good for the kids to play around with. But with the LED lanterns, for instance, they're bringing out a new one called the Sprout. The Sprout, this is a $30 retail item that runs on 3 AAA batteries. It has a 200 lumen output. You turn it on, and by holding the button down, the lumens will brighten. And it has a small lanyard that connects to the bottom of it with a magnet that you can actually hang on a tent pole or a tree, wherever you might be camping.
Okay, that's good. It's I must admit, I as much as I like using head torches, if I'm in my tent at the end of the day, I'm doing some reading, I do prefer to have a small little lantern, and I don't always carry one, but I've been seriously looking at adding it to the kit because it does provide that bit of extra flexibility.
Yeah, it does. Other products they're bringing out is the Picker Lantern. The Picker Lantern is a handheld torch.
Yep.
That has a lithium-ion battery that's USB rechargeable. It also has a USB output, so for any small devices you can actually top up with that if you do take something with you. And the neck of the torch actually expands, so then when you can have it either as a lantern or a torch.
Okay.
Other parts of the UCO range is their new utility set. So they do a utility spork, and with the utility spork, it's an outdoor product for your culinary desires, such as soup and the like. It has a fork, a serrated blade on the edge of the fork, and also a spoon. They can connect together, and so you can carry a couple at a time with a small tether. And the other product also in their range is the switch spork, and the switch spork is a spoon plus a knife, and a fork, and you can actually join them together so you can extend the handle and get into those really deep dehydrated food parcels.
That's actually quite handy. I mean, that's always been my criticism of sporks in the past, that I've got a fairly large hand, and you're trying to dig into a bag without cutting the top off it, you end up getting food all over your hand. So that's actually not a bad little idea to actually give you that a bit of extra length.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. No, it's good. That's good. They're nice looking little products, these ones. So I think they'll do well.
Yeah.
And they're doing a fire starter as well, by the look of it.
They are,
fire starters.
2 fire starters. So a Titan fire starter, which will give you 20,000 strikes. It also comes with a small key that has a small carabiner on it that's attached to a lanyard for your striker that has a number of functions for fixing stoves. It has a bottle opener on there and the like. And the other one is a survival fire striker, which has a little bit smaller, lighter weight, but has 3,000 strikes.
I think it must have been the fire starter I've got at home. I think once I got the hang of it, probably one strike, it worked well. So I think it'll probably last me almost a lifetime.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And now on to...
I might go on to GSI. With GSI, a great outdoors brand for all culinary ideas, good camp kitchen ideas. Coming through for them next year is some lightweight Bugaboo camp cups, 710ml. This weighs only about 120 grams.
Okay.
You can fit a 1 litre standardised Nalgene bottle, for instance, inside there. We've also got some expanding cup sets, so they're escape cup set, the siliconized sides, and something like that, which holds 500 mils. When it's packed up, is only a centimetre thick.
Okay. I must admit, I've always been a fan of the GSIs, particularly the GSI trowels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're probably one of the best trowels on the market, particularly for digging through rock.
Yes.
Even though they're a plastic-based trowel, they cope really well with that sort of environment.
Yeah, the trowel is repurposed Lexan. So when the Lexan didn't become as popular anymore, they popped all their Lexan bottles and essentially made them into the trowels, and then which was a great idea. So rather than landfilling them,
well, I think they've definitely done a good job on that one as well.
Yeah. The other new product that's coming through is the Escape Pot. So the Escape Pot has a a heat retainer on the bottom, a heat sink on the bottom.
Yep.
It's a collapsible silicon, and you can with a non-stick base, and you can essentially open that all the way up for a 2 or 3 litre size and cook away on it with your stove underneath.
Okay.
And you've got a strainer lid with some siliconized pads on there, so cool to touch to help strain the water.
Must admit, I looked at that and thought, oh yeah, could you put that onto a stove? But as you say, it's usable with a stove, so
Yep.
it works quite well.
Yeah. So that's that, and I thought we might go up and have a look at the new Petzl headlamp, the Swift RL. So Petzl are renowned for their technology and their innovation in head torches. They've had the Now and the Now Plus available for a long time, which has a light sensor, which a reactive light sensor. The Swift is their new one, which will be out in about September, October this year. This is their brightest head torch in the whole range, which will be 900 lumens. It's going to retail at around $199. And it offers a reactive light that adjusts on how much light it thinks you need. Great for trail running, great for bushwalking, and at 900 lumens will certainly light up the trail.
So are you able to override that if you think you need more, and you can set your own, or
You can. So you can set it so if you can have it on the reactive mode, or you can have it what they call constant mode, and that constant lighting mode is something you can preset. So USB rechargeable with a lithium-ion battery, and the battery is replaceable. It has a lock switch, so it won't turn on whilst it's in your pack. It has quite a nice reflective headband that also has a split at the back to make it nice and comfortable if you're doing some high-level activities.
how does that actually compare to some of the other products you've had in the past where they've had the battery pack at the back and the light at the front? I mean, this one's almost looking like it's more powerful.
Look, well, it is more powerful at 900 lumens. It is only 100 grams, so certainly with the battery packs at the back of the head, you usually get a bigger amperage in the battery, so you'll get longer running time.
Okay. Yep.
So with this, while you certainly won't get the longer running time as something that's the previous one being the Now, but you'll certainly, they've been able to develop the technology that you will still get a fair amount.
All right, and they're quite a good looking little torch. They almost look a bit like the Bindi in that you've
Yes.
got that adjustment sort of as far as their setting. It just looks like a beefed up version, if you like.
It does. And along with this, another feature that it does have is a little battery light level indicator on the top of the sensor, and so it'll actually go green and tell you how much battery is either left in the torch, so it'll try and give you an indication of when you possibly might need to recharge it.
That's always handy. I mean, I must admit, with a lot of torches on the market, it's thinking, I think it's getting low, but I'm not sure. This one's very clear on whether it is getting low or not, so that's good.
Yep. And that's the Swift RL.
All right, so we've been talking to Greg Ford from Spelian. As we said, this is the house of brands that sell Petzl, that sell MSR, Platypus, and a number of other brands which we've just discussed today, and many that we haven't discussed as well. So if you go to the show notes, we'll have photos and images of all these products, and links if they are available currently on the market. We'll have links of where you can buy them as well. Thanks very much for that, Greg.
You're welcome. Thanks for your time.
So that was Greg from Spelian. As we said, there's a number of well-known brands that they manage and look after in Australia. And while you may not know the name Spelian, you certainly know the very, very many products that they tend to sell. One of the things that's been noticeable for me for this year, for this show, is the changes in headlights that have come out. And particularly the Swift RL at 900 lumens, you can definitely fry possums probably at about 1.5 kilometres away. Not everyone's going to need a headlight.
Not that we're condoning that, but I'm just going to say, yeah.
So I think, while you may not need that sort of capacity, every so often, if you're on a new trail in an unfamiliar area at night time, having that extra capacity and power sometimes is handy. In addition, the new water filter from MSR is something I'm looking forward to trying out. I've always been fans of an inline filter in the past, but just found the flow rate on them to be awkward, particularly when you're trying to cook at the end of the day. So now we're going to go on to Cedar Summit. It's a name that you will recognise from just about any outdoor store in Australia, but they also manage a number of other product ranges that you'll also be highly familiar with as well. So we're day 3 now of the Outdoor Retailer Show in Melbourne, and we're here at the Cedar Summit stand. We're talking to Ross Smith, who looks after the sleeping bag and sleeping mat range. So thanks for taking the time, Ross.
Pleasure, Tim.
Okay, so we talked to you last year about the sleeping bag and the sleeping mat range, and at that stage they weren't due to be released until early this year. How's the range gone for you?
It's been really good. So last year we showed what was going to be launching this year. So February, March 2019, we've revamped our sleeping bag range, refocused the women's specific models, and also expanded upon what we know has been really successful. Many people will be familiar with the Trek series and the Spark ranges. We also launched the new Etherlite XT sleeping mat, and retweaked some of the models and included some more innovations, which is the Cedar Summit way.
All right. I must admit we've been starting to try out some of the sleeping mats and the sleeping bags, and we'll be doing some reviews online with those over the coming months. Certainly, there are really nice looking bags. I mean, even ignoring whether they work or not, they look really good.
It's good.
And I mean, I think it's always good to be able to produce a bag that functions well, but to have it looking good is also a bonus as well. So, tell us a bit about the philosophy about the ranges in the sleeping bags.
So it's understanding why we use sleeping bags, sleeping mats. We talk regularly about the complete sleep system. If I'm talking about a sleeping mat, I should also be part of that talking about a pillow that someone's using, or what bag are they using. And we really encourage people to think about that complete sleep system, taking your setup from home and recreating it outside. One huge part of that is comfort. It's asking the basic question of why do you take these things outside? It's to have a comfortable night's sleep. So that is at the forefront of a lot of our design criteria. We, of course, want to make sure that they are technically performing for you, and that could be using lightweight fabrics, high quality down, treated down, but comfort is really the biggest priority for us, and you'll see that heavily through our mats, and also now coming into our bags, acknowledging that yes, a mummy shaped sleeping bag, it's really good to save weight, but if it's too restrictive, you're not going to be comfortable, and that's going to impact the quality of your sleep, and then the quality of your performance next day. Could be not everyone's an alpine climber that needs to have a good 8 hours in the middle of a mountain, but even if you're just walking the trail at the weekend, you want to have a nice sleep, otherwise your Sunday's ruined.
I must admit, I've been using one of the older Cedar Summit sleeping bags, the Micro, which is heading out of production, and it's a mummy bag, and it's the first mummy bag I've ever owned, and I've avoided mummy bags for a number of years because I'm a reasonably large guy, but I just found that the mummy bag, particularly in the longer sizes, fit me really well, and as a result, with the less airspace on the inside, I was so much more warmer, even for a bag that was mummy versus non-mummy. It made a big difference, and I think it's a bit of a learning curve there. If you've never tried a mummy bag, it's either going to suit you or it's not, but don't discount it because it may actually be something that works for you really well. Okay, so the sleeping mat range as well, they were also a new range of sleeping mats which came onto the available for sale this year. So we had the Etherlite. I had a chance to try one of those just recently, and I'll be posting a review on that towards the end of this month. I found it probably to be one of the most comfortable mats I've ever worn, or used, sorry. So how's that gone for you?
Yeah, really well. So we talk about that comfort story again, and like you mentioned, alluded with the mummy sleeping bags, when we talk about comfort, it is very subjective, and we always encourage people to be able to try these. If you visit your retail stores, actually get a mat out and lie on it, and you can really appreciate the design details and what we're working on. So the Etherlite is our newest model in the range. We also this year made women's specific models across there, and so there's a women's specific Etherlite too. Let's touch on that mat. So it's a 10 centimetre thick air mat, which is thicker than any of the others in our range, which means it's fantastic for side sleepers. The construction techniques that we've used, though, mean it uses less fabric, and as a result, it's actually also now the lightest mat in our range too. So it's the thickest, yet lightest. Good clearance off the ground. Insulated models are certainly more popular. People need to understand that they're also protecting themselves from the cold of the ground. But we've been really, really pleased with the launch of this mat. And it continues with the tweaks of our range that have been around now for about six years. The air sprung cell comfort story, Now mats come with an integrated pump sack. It was made available with every mat about 18 months ago, and worth having a look also now at the pillow lock system that also comes with every mat, which is again part of that sleep system, understanding that there's some pretty nice lightweight pillows out there, and you can now actually attach them to all of our mats.
So the pillow lock system, from memory from last year, was just a very fine, almost micro hook and loop system, the Velcro system, which means that the pillow doesn't keep on disappearing off the mat during the night time.
Exactly that. So every single mat of ours, they come with a few things. For one, they come with a repair patch, which is really important. But they also now come with, it's an optional addition, 4 small hook and loop patches that you can stick, and the mats are marked where you need to adhere them.
Yep.
You can attach them to the top of your mat, and it will work with any of our Cedar Summit pillows to do exactly that. Keep the pillow where it should be on your mat. There's nothing like trying to fumble around in the middle of the night in the dark and recapture your pillow to put it under your head. And they work remarkably well.
I must admit, I've always avoided using inflatable pillows over the last 20-odd years, and I had a chance to use one of the Cedar Summit inflatable pillows just recently, and again, I got a really comfortable night's sleep on it. And for the sake of, I think what was the one I was using, it was about 70-odd grams.
Yeah, that'd be right.
Was really quite nice. So, again, I'll be doing a review of that one in the upcoming weeks as well. Okay, so moving on from the sleeping systems, the sleeping bags and the sleeping mats, what other great and new product has a Cedar Summit got in the range that is worthwhile mentioning?
So this year, the sleep system in general is being heavily focused still, and this year we're showcasing a couple of new product launches for next year. Probably the biggest one of those is the new Water Cell range. We have a Water Cell X and the Water Cell ST, and these are really bringing integration to your water and hydration needs. And this moves probably a little bit sort of with hiking, but also beyond car camping, even motorbike touring. There's a lot of crossover there. This is a model that comes in capacities from 4 litres, 6, 10 and up to 20 litres. They'll provide you with the ability to store water, carry it, dispense it nice and evenly, with a lot of typical Cedar Summit design features.
All right, I must admit, I had a hike earlier this year where I expected to have a good constant supply of water, and was surprised to find that a lot of the streams I usually relied on had dried up. So having the ability, particularly on longer hikes or hikes, something like, say, the Larapinta Trail, where you do have quite dry periods and you're using a lot of water, having that backup ability, even if you don't fill it all the way up. And for the sake of looking at this, say, the 6-litre bag here, that's 195 grams in weight. Even if you only put 3 litres of water in there, or if you want to fill it up with a 6, you've got that extra carrying capacity for when you know you're not going to have water for a 24 or a 36-hour period.
Absolutely.
So I think they'll do well.
So integration is the key with these. A lot of work's been done on the shape. We've got very, very great straps, multifunctional straps that can be used to hang places. And then the final piece of the puzzle is a cap, which has multiple uses, really intuitive to use, easy to lock off and control the flow of water. And with that also comes an attachable shower part, which gives you a really nice flow too.
All right, that's good. Okay, so we've got another new product here which we were looking at. Last year at the show, the UltraSil Nano Day Pack was launched, and this is something that's probably the best way to think about it. It's the size of an egg. It's actually quite tiny in size, an 18-litre pack that weighs 30 grams, so it's pretty, it's just over an ounce in the Imperial system. This year you're releasing the UltraSil Nano Shopping Bag. So it's a 25-litre bag, again weighing in the 30-gram mark. And I suppose particularly these days where we're trying to look at getting rid of plastic bags and we're sick of having these shopping bags living in the boot of the car, these actually aren't a bad-looking option because they've got a strap that looks like you could quite comfortably put this over your shoulder if you needed to.
Absolutely. So these are 30 grams. 25-litre capacity. Really nice thing about these, for me, I don't always have a bag with me, but this will fit nicely in my pocket. Also, really easy to fit back in their stuff sack. That can sometimes be the challenge with something so small. It's a pain to get back in, but the nature of the TPU finish and the siliconized fabric means that these slip really nicely back into their stuff sack. So really, really easy to use. Think about if you're in the office in the city and you're just on the way home and you need to stop off at the supermarket. an absolute winner. And that pairs obviously with the day pack that's just arrived this year. Great option if you're traveling. You've got your normal sort of maybe, let's say, 40-litre carry-on, but you don't want to take that with you when you're just touring wherever you might be able to pull out this small day pack. It's 30 grams extra to take with you on your trip, but it gives you a nice small day pack option to use.
And I think looking at this shopping bag through here again, like the NanoSil day pack, this folds down to about the size of an egg, or in fact it's probably a small egg. So unlike the supermarket shopping bags, which tend to take up quite a lot of space, this is actually very easily, you could put 3 or 4 of these in your car and you wouldn't even notice they're there, or you could even put them into a bag, your backpack, and not even think about it too much. So I think they're a product which will go quite well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the Helinox range, which is a new range for Cedar Summit this year. They've taken over the Australian the Australian distributorship of it this year, and we're here talking to Lucian. So tell us, for those people that don't know, what is Helinox, and what are some of the exciting things they've got in the range for hikers?
Helinox is a South Korean brand. Found from DAC poles, so everybody knows the lightweight tent poles. Helinox makes about 90% of the lightweight tent poles in the world. So you get like extremely light, strong, and comfortable furniture. We have products that weigh 470 grams, for a chair 0, that carries 120 kilos. We have little tables that weigh, like similar weights, like under a kilo. They can carry about 90 kilos capacity. They're packed down very small, so it's extremely easy for hikers, for kayakers, so multi-purpose. But then also for four-wheel drivers and caravanners, we have chairs that are tall, comfortable, and that weigh just over a kilo and packed down very small.
Yeah, and I think that's often a thing you see. There seems to be plenty of these camping-style chairs that all the box stores tend to sell, but they tend to be quite heavy and actually quite bulky. So I think getting something that's good quality, that weighs very little and packs down small, quite often, even if you're driving a four-wheel drive, you do have a limitation on space. So saving weight, saving space is quite good. One of the things that certainly, from my perspective, I tend not to be a chair user, but I'm surprised I'm not even surprised of the number of hikers I see who their luxury item is a chair. And almost without fail, it tends to be the Helinox range that you are seeing at campsites. People will say, I want to sit on a good, comfortable seat at the end of the day, but I don't want to carry a huge amount of weight. So certainly the Helinox is a good alternative and a good option in that sort of category. Now, when you were talking about Chair 1 and Chair 0, so that's the sizing they're sold in, is it? They have a sizing range?
Yes, this is a sizing range. So the smaller chairs, obviously like for hikers, and the bigger chairs for the grey nomads, people that sit around the campfire, around their caravan. Yep. The Chair 1 is pretty small, yet comfortable. The Chair 0 is a very lightweight version of that with like skinnier tubes and a Dyneema fabric. So they're packed down very small, so that, say the Chair 0 weighs less than a small bottle of water.
Yeah.
So, like if you compromise a bit like of space in your pack, when you sit down like for those 20 minutes, it's comfortable, you don't get wet, and, then I think the walk becomes more pleasant.
Yeah, and I know sometimes when I did my Bibbulmun track hike in Western Australia last year, I had about 27 days of rain, and it was like, where can I find somewhere dry to sit?
Exactly.
And then sometimes you just give up and think, all right, am I going to get a wet backside? I've got no choice.
That's exactly
right.
But,
it is nice to be able to have a comfortable seat. And sometimes there's not a dry log somewhere. So if you're looking at a luxury item, the chairs are probably a good way to go.
Yeah, and they go up very quick. So, like they're all shot corded together. So you'll have a chair up in about 20 seconds and you pack it back in 20 seconds. It's in a loose bag, so it's not like you're fiddling to make it small.
It's not like an IKEA product?
Exactly, yeah. Maybe it is, but it's shot corded together.
Yeah, I think it's. We were just having a discussion before about whether we read the instructions to put these things together, but they look like once you actually know how to do it, it's probably quite an easy sort of process.
Exactly. You actually need one hand. Yeah, you can do it with one hand if you wanted to. Yeah.
All right, that's good. Thanks very much for that.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, so we're here still on the Cedar Summit stand, and we're talking to Eric, who's the Director of International Sales. Eric's come over from the US. I think he's obviously decided he's missing the cold weather. He's come over to
Melbourne weather here right now. Yeah.
Come over to probably the coldest weather Melbourne's had in a couple of years with these fronts coming through. So we're going to talk to him about the Black Diamond range, particularly the headlamps and the tracking poles. So tell us a bit about the ranges for both of these, and is there any new and exciting products that have come out this year?
Yeah, so for spring 2020, we redo our entire rechargeable line. So this is going to take the similar feature set to our previous headlamps, where we went to this new user interface with 2 buttons. We found this a lot easier to understand. You got one button for on and off, and the second button goes through the functions. So you've got your distance beam, your proximity beam, and your red light. You hold 2 of these buttons down for 3 seconds, and it's going to lock your headlamp out, so you can throw it in your pack when you're hiking along. You're not going to accidentally bump it on. So this is these features we added to our headlamp line in spring 2019. Well, sorry, January. Seasons are flipped between us. But the Revolt, which is our third best-selling headlamp, gets the rechargeable upgrade for spring 2020. So this headlamp is 350 lumens. It's got the kind of complicated BD feature set where you have the 6-setting battery meter here. You've got power tap, and you've got USB rechargeable in the case. So the previous version of the Revolt had 3 AAA batteries that were rechargeable. For Spring 20, we go to this lithium-ion block. So this is 1800 milliamps for the capacity. Similar competitive product would be the Pexel Actic Core, which is a 1250 milliamps, so a little bit better bang for your buck. And also as a backup, it still works with AAAs if you needed to flip them out. So pop that block in there. It's rechargeable from within the unit. And all the standard BD feature set, which lockout I think is one of the most important ones.
I must admit the Revolt's been I've got 2 versions of that. The version before that and the version before that at home. And, actually, one of the things that surprises me with the Revolt, I think it's actually, I don't know about in this new model, it seemed to have better waterproofing than the Storm and the others in the range. Is that correct?
So the previous version of the Revolt was IPX8. So with that waterproof rating, it's defined by the manufacturer. So the electronics are sealed, but water can enter the battery box. So if you do submerge it, you just want to make sure at the end of the day, you take it out, you take the batteries out, and you dry them. With this headlamp having the lithium-ion battery on the inside, it's actually IPX4, so you don't want to submerge it, but you can use it in the rain, you can use it in the hail. If it's windy, it's no problem, but you don't want to fully submerge it, and that's because of the contacts on the lithium-ion battery. If you were to put AAAs in here, it would be effectively IPX8.
So it's more the battery technology rather than anything else.
Absolutely, because you can swap that block out. We'll have an accessory. It'll be a spare battery and a wall charger, so if you wanted to, you could bring an extra battery with you, flip it out, and have 12 hours of burn time on it.
I must admit that's the way the industry seems to be heading, and from my perspective, when I'm going on a hike where I don't have contact to a wall socket for 3 weeks, having the ability to recharge everything rather than carrying multiple sets of batteries.
And if you do the math, if you get a traditional 4 or 3 battery AAA headlamp, the amount of time that you top it off and switch the batteries out over the course of the year, it's a lot more cost effective, in my opinion, worth the upcharge a little bit. But the rechargeable headlamp, the rechargeable range in general, it sells well, but the consumer, I don't feel, is fully there yet. We need to do a better job of educating the benefits of the line.
I must admit, I tend to use lithium batteries, and when you start putting a set of lithium batteries into anything, the cost starts adding up.
I mean, headlamps in general, it's been really interesting to see, because there's a lot of competition that will try and do battle strictly with lumens, and this is where we're trying to do a better job of having a well-curated, easy-to-understand tech list to give to floor staff to walk you through the different functions of the headlamp, because that's really what helps separate the BD headlamps out from the competition. You'll see a lot of kind of private label brands. They'll be like 1,000 lumens, 1,200 lumens, but if you actually go out and use it, get about 2 hours of burn time, and then it shuts off. Don't have the feature set, don't have lumens, or don't have that sort of battery life, and don't have an adjustable beam. But one other function on here to call out is a power tap. So with all of our headlamps, if you turn it off at a certain intensity, we call it brightness memory. It'll always turn back on at the same brightness. But if you tap the side, it's going to turn it up to 100% output.
Okay.
So you get into a dark area, you can power tap it up, touch it again, and it goes back to what it was set at before.
I must admit, I think I had that on my current version of the Revolt, and it's, in some respects, it's like now I did actually have to read the instructions. I have to think now, what do I have to do again? But after a couple of weeks of using it, became very, very familiar.
Yeah, like the old version of this, when it was just a single button, you would the retail packaging would come with this little card that would teach you how to use the different settings and different button combinations. We felt that was a little bit too confusing to the end consumer, so when we went to this 2-button arrangement, which we found is a little more intuitive and largely simplified it for the end consumer.
All right. Yeah. Now, moving on from the lights onto the tracking poles. I mean, Black Diamond is a well-known tracking pole company.
Absolutely.
A lot of poles in the range. And I suppose it really comes down to the features you're looking at. Yeah. So at the moment, I'm using some of the carbon tracking poles.
Okay. Are they telescoping, or is it a Z pole?
No, the Z pole.
Okay.
So I've chosen those purely for the weight. More than anything else. But I know that you certainly do have. I've had a previous version that was telescoping. And I think I just decided to opt for the non-telescoping ones, the fixed-to-length ones. Purely to save the weight from what I was doing.
It saves the weight quite a bit, and also with the Z poles having the collapsibility, we found that consumer is generally gravitating towards that. It's amazing. In the U.S., for hunt and fish distribution, we sell a whole bunch of the telescoping poles. The Trail is pretty much our number one seller. But for the Asia-Pacific region, the Z pole actually is a top seller by far.
I do own a pair of the Trail poles, not this version, the previous model, and certainly the weight difference. I mean, they're not overly heavy, but when you compare them to the carbon fibers, it's a big difference. So what? I mean, overall, what's probably your best-selling pole? I mean, and I know it's going to vary depending on what people are using them for.
This one, actually, that I'm holding right here, which is the Distance Carbon FLZ. So it's carbon fiber pole, sheds some weight. It has the flick lock adjustment at the top to set for your different heights, and it's fully collapsible. And goodness, feel that a pair of them weighs under 400 grams.
Yeah, no, they certainly are pretty light. So I think they're the pair that I'm using at the moment. So.
A very specific use pole that we are coming out with for Spring 20 is going to be for the trail runner. So this, it kind of almost feels like a toy, but it's a carbon fiber fixed length.
Right.
Yeah, the Distance Carbon. So it's 95 grams, and it's.
All right, I think the tracking industry will very much like those.
Kind of bit of a halo product, but I think there is a consumer out there, and it's especially relevant for the trail running market, which is something we're talking more and more to.
So we've been talking to Eric.
Eric, you got it.
So International Marketing Manager for Black Diamond. And again, Black Diamond also do a big range of climbing equipment, but certainly from the market we're looking at, the hiking market with the poles and the lights, they're probably the best known products. So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Tim. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so now we're talking to Chris, also from Cedar Summit, about the Gerber product range. So tell us a bit about what Gerber is and what they do.
So Gerber is all about creating products that can be useful in every day, but also about sometimes life-saving tools. So something that might seem quite simple, it's about being prepared. You don't know when you might get stuck in a car and you might need your impromptu pen to break out through the glass, etc. In saying that, it could be as simple as you're a golfer. You've got a multi-tool on you, the wheel falls off your caddy, you've got a tool there that can fix that, and you can get on with your game. So it doesn't necessarily have to be tactical or in your face, but it's just about that old scout adage of be prepared.
Okay, so Gerber produce a range of knives and general tools, and there was one in particular that came out this year at some of the American shows that gained a lot of attention. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so we're very exciting. In July last year at the outdoor show, we were able to get into, and Gerber have now launched spoons and cutlery eating tools. So there was two products we've launched called the Devour and the Complete. The complete is a 4-piece fork spoon combo, which then can also double as a set of tongs. So it's almost a multi-tool of cutlery. And as you mentioned, we've won a Red Dot Design Award. We won the Best in Show Award, and we won a Gear Junkie Award as well. So it's been received very well. It arrived on Australian shores bang on Christmas, and we're just starting to see some distribution, and there's certainly been a lot of excitement at this year's show.
So is that available for sale at the moment, or it's just coming onto the market?
It is now available for sale, so it's in our shed, and we're ready to sell. So.
Okay, and that's a product that a lot of people, particularly those that follow social media, you may have seen it over the last month. As Chris mentioned, it won a Gear Junkie Award for one of the most innovative products at the US show just recently. And I think it's a product that looks quite interesting, so it's something we hope to be reviewing over the coming months.
Fantastic.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Chris. Much appreciated.
Thanks for your time.
So Cedar Summit was, as you can see, is a company that has a lot of product in their stable, and there's certainly a lot of product we didn't talk about. It was a few interesting things in there that I'm looking forward to over the coming months to really giving a try out. Certainly the highlight for me was the lightweight tracking poles that weigh 95 grams each. And while they're aimed at trail runners, I can certainly see myself getting used to those from a hiking perspective. The other couple of good products that are worthwhile mentioning, the sleeping bags, and again, they're a well-known sleeping bag range within Australia, and the Helinox chairs. And while I probably won't be a candidate for carrying a lightweight camping chair on my tracks, I came across a lot of people on my hikes last year that were actually carrying the Helinox range. They just give that bit of extra comfort, and particularly when you're travelling in wet areas where you don't want to end up getting a soggy backside.
Yeah, the thing that I noticed about the Cedar Summit stand was, like Tim said, the diverse range of products, the sleeping bags and the range, quite a growing range of sleeping bags designed for women. And just as a general comment, it's a bit of a thing I have at the moment. The colour of that stand was just amazing. There was lots of colour, and it was quite an interesting stand from that perspective, whereas some of the other stands were, a little bit subdued. Let me just say that.
The other thing worth mentioning is the Black Diamond range of headlamps, and headlamps seem to have undergone a bit of a renaissance over the last couple of years. We very much are shifting into the rechargeable range and trying to go away from the throwaway disposable batteries, and that seems to be an industry-wide thing, not just with one particular brand or another. Black Diamond seems to have gone slightly different in what they're doing with their range than what Petzl have. But it's like anything. There's no one perfect headlamp, at the moment at least anyway, that's going to do everyone. So whether you want capacity or durability or waterproof, or just the range of features, there's a model that's available within the industry that will suit most people. But there's not going to be one that's going to suit everybody.
Yeah, so it's sort of trying to work out what the most important features are for you.
So now we're going to go on to Leatherman. Now, this is a tool, the Leatherman tools, that many people who have been hiking for more than a few months are probably aware of. And they range from the simple and basic through to the very complex. Many people can remember the old Swiss Army knives that are still around but have been around for many years. This takes this to the next level on. And there really are some amazing tools within this range. And they have a new product line that is coming through for release onto the market fairly soon that people will be keen to have a look at. So an interesting interview, this one. Okay, so I'm here talking to Carlos from Leatherman Australia. Leatherman is one of those products that I think just about everybody who has ever gone outdoors knows. They produce a range of what's best called multi-tools. These are things that have knives and a number of other tools and features and functions that I think most people aspire to own a Leatherman product at some stage. So, Carlos, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
No, my pleasure.
Okay, so tell us a bit about Leatherman. I've been very generic in introducing them, but what's so special about Leatherman products?
Look, I think it truly goes back to just over 35 years ago now, when Tim Leatherman actually brought out his first Leatherman tool, and I suppose the evolution of quality that they've brought into the marketplace in the multi-tool sector. And I guess when you put your name to a product, as Tim Leatherman did, one thing you always wanted to ensure was quality. And I met Tim last year during the 35-year anniversary tour, and he said, if my name's on it, it's got to be the highest quality, and that goes back to where they're made in the same factory, or now a lot larger factory in Portland, Oregon, and obviously now what they're bringing into the market with a new platform, which they call Leatherman Free. So the innovation piece is also there. So quality, which is synonymous, warranties and so forth, which we can go into. But now it's what really excites us at the moment is the new Leatherman Free platform, which they're bringing out this year.
And when will that hit the Australian market, do you think?
Look, it's actually hit the market at the moment. There's been a worldwide launch via e-commerce. So at the moment, consumers can access it through leatherman.com.au, but it's going to hit retail stores mid-August. So we're looking at about 16th, 17th of August in retail stores, so people will be able to finally touch it and feel it before making that purchase.
Now, I did describe Leatherman's as a bit of a multi-tool. Is that the best way to describe them, do you think? Or?
Yeah, look, multi-purpose is a great way of describing it, but I think this new platform, people have traditionally thought of Leatherman as pliers, multi-tool with a pliers, and has been the central focal point, and now that hasn't changed with this new series, but what they've also opened up is new markets, I truly believe, by creating multi-tools with a few less features, but a bit more nimble and dynamic to cater for new markets, and not just that traditional plier-based model, but opening it up to other tools which but also have that multi-tool function.
What tends to be, there is such a big range of options within the range. What tends to be your best sellers? And I'll say probably from the outdoor market. So from a hiking perspective, what do people tend to go for?
Yeah, look, it's funny you ask that, because I always think that, there must be something different. But worldwide, it's still the Leatherman Wave Plus. That is still the high-selling Leatherman tool by units around the world, and also here in Australia. But what we're finding in the hiking market is some of the lighter tools. Yep. So, if I think about Leatherman Signal, is quite popular. It's a little bit lighter, a few less tools, but the ability to, obviously, when we're hiking, weight is very important. So you're thinking the Signals, the Skeletals, once again, still the plier-based models, but made of different materials. Compressing a few of the tools down a little bit, and eliminating maybe something you don't need on those hikes, which enables the people out there in the hikers not to carry so much weight. So that's probably Skeletal and the Signals are probably the two most popular ones for the hikers.
I must admit, I do actually own a Leatherman. I've had it for 5 years, 6 years, and I think Skeletal does sound familiar. And I think I went for what's a lightweight option that's going to give me what I need. So
yeah, look, grams matter for you guys, and the gram difference is important. So yeah, look, it's all about sometimes do I really need the full gamut of tools that the Leatherman Wave Plus or the Super tool have, or do I just need maybe a cut down version? And obviously the gram factor comes into play.
So, as a general guide, what's the range price-wise and I suppose weight-wise on the Leatherman tools in Australia?
Oh, look, price-wise, you can start at an entry level at $69.95, and then you can get as far as you're looking at $300 and close to $389.95 with some of the tools, and then you can get some special limited edition models which come gold plated. So take your pick.
Do people actually use them, or they just look at them?
No, look, you'd be amazed how many. There's a group of people out there called the Leatherman super fans who just collect Leathermans, and I think they're more of a collector's piece. I'd hate to see some of those gold-plated Leatherman tools in someone's toolbox, but hey, you never know. But from a weight perspective, look, they do range, but they're all actually quite light. Some of the more heavy-duty super tools, which are more for maybe a tradies box and a tradesman, a bit bigger, and also the durability. You can use a hammer on them, and they've all got hammer features, but you really can really smash these things.
Yeah.
They're a bit heavier at over 300 grams, but then you get into your smaller, like your micras. Your micras, you're looking at less than 100 grams. So, but once again, you got to suit what you need, and sometimes you need a bit more of a heavy duty tool because you're hiking for a few days. You just don't want maybe a small micro because it's not going to do everything you need it to do.
Yep.
That's more of a pocket tool as opposed to a multi-purpose tool that's going to, calm. I suppose Ben Rivera, the CEO of Leatherman, the US, always says you don't really know what you need a Leatherman for until you get one and actually use it. You go, oh, that's what I needed it for. So, it's all up for the user.
All right. So we've been talking to Carlos from Leatherman Australia, and as I said, I've owned a Leatherman and had one for a number of years, and it's one of those aspirational products that every keen outdoor person wants to own at some stage. So we'll put some information up and some photos up on our show notes of where you can get Leatherman tools, and some hopefully some photos of the newer product to be released.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to show people what that new range is like. So thanks very much for your time, Carlos.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
Okay, so that was our interview with Leatherman Australia. Again, it's one of those tools that most people recognise, even if they haven't touched or seen. And we were touched on the fact that their new product, the Leatherman Free, is just about to hit the Australian market, at least in the retail stores, will be fairly soon. And these are a tool that's designed to be operated one hand, so you don't necessarily have to hold the bulk of the tool with one hand and then pull a particular tool out. So it's one of those sort of things that they're a nice looking tool as always, and I think it's the new model, the new Leatherman 3, is going to be very popular.
Yeah, it's a nice usability improvement, I think, yeah.
Okay, so on to our last interview now, and this is with Frontier Equipment, and again, another company that carries a number of different products, and we've targeted 3 specific products in this interview, and that is the Sierra Design sleeping bags, the Gregory packs, and the Roughwear outdoor equipment for dogs. So something just a bit different. So we're here with James Poole from Frontier Equipment, and Frontier Equipment do a number of brands, and we're going to talk about a couple of those today. So thanks very much for taking the time, James.
It's all right. It's all right, Tim.
Okay, so the first brand of product we're going to talk about is Gregory Packs. This is a range that's probably not so well known in Australia, but certainly has a very good following in the States where they come out of. So tell us a bit about the Gregory Pack range. What's so special about them?
Essentially, Gregory backpacks very, very well known for their load carrying capacity. Fantastic comfort in their sort of Response A3 suspension system, the top of the line packs, and that technology is filtered down through all the pack range. And today we're showing off the touch points of the brand and the new packs coming through this season, using sort of laser cut foam on the hip belts and shoulder strapping, and cutting some of that weight, improving ventilation of the packs, comfort when you're carrying this stuff, and moving into more that through walker, lightweight, sort of heavy, lighter weight fabrics, getting away from this heavier, denier fabrics they've been using in the past, and maintaining that comfort for those guys and girls.
So do Gregory do a full range of packs? Are they doing from the small day packs all the way up to the big expedition packs?
Exactly. We've got a range all the way from 100 litres in the Denali,
right,
all the way down to your 16-litre commuter pack with your laptop and a water bottle for work. So we've got the entire range covered.
All right, and so you were saying there's some new packs coming onto the market. Are these just revamps of existing models, or are they whole new models coming through?
A combination of both. For example, we've got the Nano 16 here, showing off at $69.95 recommended retail price.
It's a little commuter pack, is it?
Exactly, a little commuter pack, top loading, a number of colours, simple back length. You can fold it up, put it in your bag when you're travelling, as well as using it on the train, on the bike to and from work. As well as that, we've got the new range of Zulus. They've been a heritage product. They've come through the number of previous years, number of generations. Every year they've seen a refinement of the product, improving the design features, feedback from customers, feedback from users, and improving it from there.
All right, I think probably one of the names that a lot of people may have heard of is the Boltero.
Exactly, yes.
That seems to be one of their long-running packs by the sound of it. It's the name I've always seemed to come across every so often. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Very well known sort of on numerous sort of review sites, Gear Junkies and stuff like that, consistently very, very well reviewed. for those guys and girls. Baltoro for the men, Diva for the women. Looking for a strong load carrying bag for multiple expedition days.
All right, and what are the best sellers for you in Australia in relation to the bigger packs?
Bigger packs, definitely. Baltoro and Diva, men's, women's, respectively. 60 litre, 70 litre, 80 litre variants, dedicated backlinks. Fitted very, very well, adjustable within those ranges as well. Moving from there, you've got the Amber and Stout range, similar big capacity packs, 60, 70 litres, adjustable backlinks. Very, very easy for people to get them on your back, size them up, get them comfy, using a lighter weight foam, lower density foam, cutting the cost of it a little bit of a cheaper pack. Sits at sort of $350 at a retail price point there.
All right. Okay, so Gregory Packs, as I said, it's not a product that's been in Australia for very long. It's only been a few years.
Yeah, we've had it for a number of years. Big heritage, obviously, in the States, and a huge market in Japan and Asia. And we're seeing that cut through in the Australian market as well.
Okay, yep. So starting to see more and more stores carrying it through.
Yeah, more pickup. Limited edition colorways, seeing people on Instagram and stuff like that. Definitely in the Asian markets, they love their unique patterns and everything like that. So Gregory are working to get that out there as well.
Okay, now one of the other products you also deal with is the Sierra Designs product. Now Sierra Designs, probably in Australia at least, are better known for their sleeping bags and their tents.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about the Sierra Designs sleeping bags.
Yes, the sleeping bag range has seen a bit of an overhaul in the last 12 months or so with some new models coming through. Seeing updates on some classic designs and some redesigns of a few products. So working from, I guess, the top down, we're looking at the Nitro sleeping bag, which is a traditional mummy-shaped bag, 750 loft down. Got a patented foot box design, so it actually splits away from the bottom where your feet are, making it very, very easy to regulate your body temperature in the bags. And this sort of design features sort of reflected all the way through the range, all the way down to their sort of entry-level bags. The other thing they've won multiple awards for, Aura in America, is the Cloud sleeping bag, completely zipperless. So no zips, very, very comfortable to sleep in, as well as a comforter-style duvet on the top of the bag. So you can roll around, have it over your shoulder, sleep on your side, sleep on your back. Very, very comfortable bag to sleep in. All have sort of integrated mat sleeves in the back of the bag, so you don't roll off your mat in the middle of the night. And sort of extra features in there that make it a more comfortable, livable bag to be in. And
they do a range of, I suppose, warmth ratings, do they?
Exactly. Sizes and ratings. They've got women's sizes, regular and longs, as well as sort of temperature ratings. So they normally work at about a 0 degree bag as their sort of standard bag, and then a warmer bag for sort of colder climates, and that's sort of normally sitting around minus 10, minus 12 at a comfort limit there. At the EN rating system. So very, very comparable across other brands as well, that same temperature rating.
Okay, and I'll spring this on you because we're having a bit of a chat to it before we started doing the interview. You also look after the Roughwear product as well.
Yes, we do indeed.
Now, Roughwear is a range of gear for dogs. So if you're taking dogs hiking or out bush and you want them to do a bit of the load carry. And we were recently talking to Lucy Barnard, who's walking from bottom of South America, North America, and she's outfitting her dog Wombat with Roughwear gear. So tell us a bit about Roughwear.
Yeah, Roughwear heritage sort of started in America in the outdoor space. The gentleman who owns the company needed a collapsible bowl for his dog when he's out in his van and traveling around the country, and brought it to an outdoor show. And from there, the brand started with a collapsible bowl, moved into float coats and life jackets for dogs, where rafting accidents with dogs and through whitewater rafting, into a full outdoor range and collection from ski touring and jawing to running and trail running, active pursuits, and then also recently into like the assistance dog and working dog range as well. So there's something there for any dog owner really, from little boots to protect the paws all the way through to a running harness and a pulling harness or assistance harness to help
I think it's one of the things that people often tend to forget. If you're walking on a hot road and you're struggling to cope with the heat of what's coming through your feet, so are the dogs.
Exactly.
So I think protecting the dog's feet from the heat or from rough conditions, particularly if you're doing the longer distances, is probably a good idea.
And that's what we've found with Lucy and Wombat through the walk. And in the middle of the desert, it might be 30 degrees during the day, and Wombat's paws are just getting a bit too hot, a bit too sore. And at the night time as well, it's getting down to -5. They need something warm for the dog as well. So that's where the coat and the backpack come in there for the dogs.
All right, that's good. Thanks very much for that, James.
No worries at all, Tim.
So we've been talking to James from Frontier Equipment. As we said, Gregory's Packs, Sierra Design sleeping bags and tents, Roughwear, as well as a few other ranges of products as well, which aren't so hiking specific. But again, a lot of product on show here, and we'll put the photos up on the show notes and links where you can find the gear as well. Okay, thanks very much.
No worries at all. Thank you.
Okay, so that was our last interview out of this 2-episode series with Frontier Equipment. And so we were looking at Gregory Packs, Sierra Designs sleeping bags, and something a bit unique, and particularly probably in a worldwide market, not just an Australian market, is Roughwear equipment for dogs.
Yeah, the Roughwear I think is great. It's a really interesting and well thought out range, and there are even little booties for walking your dog when the weather gets really hot or when the weather's really cold. So, yeah, something to check out.
And as we said, Lucy Barnard, who we interviewed about a month or so ago, she's got her dog Wombat and she's fitting him out with Roughwear gear. And while he may not be aware of it, he's going to be carrying some of his own stuff in the coming in the coming months. So, it is a very unique product. Okay, so that was the end of this 2-episode series, and from my perspective, this is the 3rd year that we've attended, and I learn new things all the time. I mean, I follow blogs and industry information quite religiously, but you always tend to pick up stuff by talking to the importers and the manufacturers that you don't tend to pick up by reading online. So there was certainly a lot that I learned out of this show. The people that work within the industry in Australia are a good bunch of people. They really are. We didn't come across anyone who didn't want to talk to us, who was particularly uninterested. They were all very passionate about the products they sell, and obviously they're trying to sell products, but you could tell they were passionate about it without the need to drive sales. So,
yeah, and I think the thing that I liked is that, the passion came from the fact that they really believe that these are the sorts of things that people are looking for. So people in their market will be interested in, and combination of need and want in their outdoor hiking kit.
So, if you're thinking about new equipment, if you're thinking about something you've been looking at buying for a long time, as I said, there's a lot of new product either just come online or about to come online. So get out there and have a look at the show notes, see what's available. It might suit your needs, but just get out there. That's all for this week's episode. Next week's episode will be on sleeping mats, and this is an episode we had hoped to get to air earlier this month, but had to delay it for personal reasons. So we're going to go into sleeping mats in detail, talk about the hows and whys and what you should look for, and we've done a number of reviews that will go along with that. So hopefully you'll find that interesting. That's all for me. Bye for now.
And bye from me.